Welcome to the Miracle You, guiding you on the journey towards finding passion and purpose, and how to discover, create, and live a life by your design. Whether your success has been plentiful or your missed opportunities have been overwhelming, we can help you become a more empowered, masterful person and show you how to share your gift with the world. It's time to inspire change from within with the host of the Miracle You, Vince Kramer.
Hello, imagination. I'm Vince Kramer, your host, and welcome to the Miracle You, where you learn about the magic of living your life by finding the example in real life.
You are amazing. My granddaughter uses that a lot as she realizes just how amazing that she is. But each and every one of us are special. We're unique. We're incredible in so many ways. And I want to share with you that you have the ability to manifest and create anything that you want in your life. It's just bringing yourself in alignment. Many times we have to learn to unlearn what we didn't love about ourselves, what felt heavy in our lives. And as we unlearn those things that have held us back, that have kept us in the lower vibrations, we now can learn how to move ourselves into those higher vibrations. We're constantly creating. We are truly the creators of our reality. So everything that we experience around us, we're creating. The question is, can we start creating at the higher vibrations? Can we start creating to bring those things into our lives that we really want? The answer is yes. And today we'll learn a little bit more about how to do that. There's also opportunities to learn through Imagine Miracles or other places to learn how to bring your vibration into the vibration that matches, that's in alignment with everything that you want. I'm with Mandy Morris today. Mandy is an entrepreneur, philanthropist, and manifestation expert. She's the creator of Authentic Living, an online company designed to help individuals reconnect with their authentic selves to find purpose, peace, and deep healing. Mandy and her brands have been featured in media outlets that include Shape, Mind Body Green, The Chalkboard, BuzzFeed, Well Plus Good, and Thrive Global, as well as on notable podcasts, including The Jenny McCarthy Show, Your Own Magic, and Hungry for Happiness. Mandy Morris, are you ready to share the miracle of you with the imagination?
I'm so ready. Thanks for having me, Vince.
Very exciting for me to have you here. The intros are always really short. Could you share a little bit more about you and what you're doing?
Yeah, so I never thought I'd be teaching manifestation of all things. I always thought I would be a psychiatrist of some sort. My past was pretty much riddled in different traumas and dysfunction, and I became really comfortable in that space and started choosing dysfunction. And it wasn't until I had an incredible turnaround in my life that I'm able to be here today and share my knowledge. And really, it's manifestation in a way, but it's rooted in psychology and science and trauma healing and all of the good stuff. So my work just birthed from my own pain in many ways, and the pain that I saw so many of my loved ones go through. And here I am, so blessed to be able to help people do the different things that I've been able to do as well.
All the things that happen to us in our lives take us in our direction if we're willing to listen and follow. And I know you've followed your path quite extensively. Could you share what that turnaround was? What was the wake-up call in your life that got you to move towards purpose?
Yeah. So kind of going backwards a little bit, I have degrees in psychology and I studied physics and I loved metaphysics and quantum, but I couldn't get it to change my life. I had all this heady knowledge, but I couldn't do anything with it. And so I continued to choose dysfunctional relationships was one of my drugs of choice, I guess you could say. And I was in this really abusive relationship. And the individual that I was dating, we had this really theatrical and difficult and traumatic moment, and he threw glass at me. And I remember thinking, okay, he had been abusive prior, had been verbal and emotional, but for some reason, when it became physical, that was like I hit my basement and I realized, no, this is not the end of my story. This is not my life. And so it was really, it kind of sounds like a movie, but it really happened this way. Dropped to my knees, called out to my higher power. And I was like, I have to be doing something wrong here, but I know I can do something right. Please just give me purpose. Show me what I'm supposed to do on this planet. I will do it. And I will release any need for money, for children, for a beautiful relationship. Just give me peace. And I tell you what, that like pure, this is what I think at least, the purity and my desire to give myself over to service changed everything. And my whole life just flipped upside down in the most beautiful of ways. And it was like that moment, you know how sometimes when you're trying to grow and you're like, I'm afraid I'm going to go backwards, or will I ever get there? That was the moment that I knew, and it has continued to be now for almost a decade, that I never went back. I only went forward.
Oh, that's a great story to share. And thank you so much. And it's the hero's journey, right? That surrender. When we finally surrender to who we are, and even when we don't realize we're surrendering to who we are, the doors start to open. So you realize it's time to move on. It's time to step into more of who you are. And one of the things as I was looking through and doing research for our time together today, you talked about operating in authenticity. How did that come about for you?
So it actually had happened prior to that moment where I had dropped to my knees and kicked that boyfriend out and changed my life. But it was about 5 months prior to that. I was moving from Arizona to Florida, and I was broke. I had no furniture or anything, but I was in my little apartment in Florida. And for 30 days, I didn't see any friends, family. Obviously, that relationship wasn't a part of my life at that time. And I found myself. And for the first time, I wasn't people pleasing or trying to be what everyone wanted me to be or living in my pain. I just felt like I was completely fresh. And what I called it was the authentic self. I finally met myself, and I didn't even know who she was anymore. And I liked her. And I used to hate myself. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just hate that I have to be something for everyone, or that I'm so, stuck in my trauma. But I actually like who I am. And then I stepped into that darkness again, but it was so much clearer. And so when I really shifted my life around and realized that I was going to be of service in the way that I am today, I realized if everyone is vibrating in authenticity, that's what I would call it. If they are embodying their authentic self, the entire planet benefits, because it's like everybody is their perfect puzzle piece of existence. And we thread this beautiful tapestry together of reality. So we have to get everybody there. So that authenticity is just like that real raw part of us that came to this planet to do something awesome, to be something awesome before all the stuff happened that, caused us to lose our way.
I've got a really interesting question for you. So in losing our way, there was so many gifts that came to us, so many things that we learned. I mean, your education, your experience of what it's like to not love yourself, your experience of what it was to try to reach out and grab what you thought you wanted instead of knowing it's there for you as you open yourself up to who you are. On that journey, when you say, I finally learned that I was somebody that I could love, how did that process go?
It was really the unlearning of what I wasn't, I suppose. And so I always talk about this concept called counter manifesting. It's all of the stuff that isn't us that causes us to create a reality that we don't like. And so I realized that all of the things that caused me pain had nothing to do with who I was. It was what had been concreted over me over time because of all of those traumas and pains. And so it was me peeling the layers back off and saying, oh my gosh, I'm realizing that this part of me feels heavy, and it's not actually a part of me. It's something I picked up from my mom. Or I don't like, this way that I choose my reality within my finances. Oh my gosh, that's programming because we were homeless when I was born, or whatever it was. So it was this really cool. And for the first time, instead of it being debilitating, it was exciting and interesting. And I was curious of, why am I the way I am? And what about me is not me? What did I pick up that I need to set down? And so it was this really cool unlearning, or, the peeling of the onion, as I say, so I could get to the core of who I actually am, or who I choose to be now moving forward.
That's a great way to put it. And not too many people talk about it that way. but it's in really getting to understand who we are, and who we are in this moment. Is it really who we choose to be? Is it really what we brought into this world? And now, okay, can I let go of those things that are no longer, they're not serving me at all right now, and they're definitely not empowering me. They're more disempowering me. So as you moved into that place, how did you start using the gifts that you developed over time and the choices that you made going into psychology and things like that? How did you bring those together to create the authentic living?
I think it was a mixture of, and I always equate it to, above all else, a higher power. I feel like, what I call God, and I perceive that God is different than I'm sure everyone else, but that higher power and my ability to give service over allowed for so much information I didn't even know I had in me to flow. And so although I was in my early 20s, I was sitting in rooms with NASA scientists. I don't know how I got in those rooms, but that was all there. But again, it didn't change my life. It was all up here, but I couldn't drop it into my heart. And so it wasn't until I think giving my life over to service, or being willing to actually heal and not hold on to everything, that all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, this feels amazing. Oh my gosh, I need to give this feeling to other people. I have a responsibility that my life is becoming so beautiful and so healed. When you've been in such dark places, you know what that feels like. And you don't want anybody there. I don't want anyone on this planet to be in some of the spaces that I've been in my own mind, or the chaos and dysfunction of my life. And when you see that, and you see how incredible, and really in some ways easy, you do have to do the work, but how easy and beautiful the process is, you want to bring everybody with. And so Authentic Living was birthed from just that pure intention of, I need to bring everybody on with this, because, oh my gosh, I've gone through so many different things in my life. I understand so many walks of life. I've tried so many things that haven't worked. Maybe I've got something to say. And so I was just really humble about it and started sharing the information I knew, or what I was going through. I'm always growing. I'm always learning something. And I just shared it, and people resonated. And it was just this collection of incredible people who wanted to learn from me. And now it grew into this multi-7-figure incredible millions of people around the world, and here we are. But it was just taking the breadcrumbs and following the little pieces that I felt like my higher power was dropping me, and then me being willing to grow, lean into it, understand it, and develop it into who I am today and what authentic living is today.
In every interview, there's so many things that pop up where questions can go this way or that way. And just in what you shared there are so many. There's a couple things I want to ask. First of all, service means different things to different people. So when you say giving yourself over to service, what does that mean for you?
So for myself, and this was really something that showed up throughout my entire life, I was always a helper. So back when I was in elementary school, they would literally pull me out of class. I was in all the gifted programs. I was really intelligent on my father's side, genius IQs over there. But I was, that kid that was in all these other classes, but they'd pull me out to go sit with a child who was having behavioral issues. Or if some kid was throwing chairs, they would bring me over, and she would calm down immediately just by presence. And so I noticed that I was just a natural helper as a child, shut my light off due to trauma, and stopped being a helper, which was the most painful thing I could possibly do for how I'm naturally wired. And when I got back into that space of, I am a helper, I want to help people rise up. I love seeing people's energy shift. I love transmuting their pain with them, and seeing other humans, come together in that love. So for me, giving myself over to service was, I am here to serve the world. I will absolutely be served. It's not a martyrism or anything like that. I believe that the cycle of abundance goes both ways, but it is me saying, okay, in the highest good of all, not the highest good of Mandy, but in the highest good of all, how do I make sure that my actions, my decisions, my thoughts are all in alignment to where we all rise up together collectively, as a human race, if you will, in all of existence, instead of just thinking about, myself, which is sometimes what happens in manifestation.
As you gave yourself over to service, now the promptings, now the messages, now the universe is delivering, God's delivering direction. You shared them as breadcrumbs. Could you give us an example of some of your breadcrumbs, and then share with the audience your way of finding them and listening to them?
Yeah. So I always ask, and I think that anyone can set kind of this parameter. I ask for signs. That's what I call them. Signs to be really obvious. I want like a glass to break. I don't want anyone to get hurt, but I want it in my physical reality, right in my face. And so it's transformed over time. But in the very beginning, it was show me the signs that I need to still continue to get in more and more alignment. And I want to be blessed, as well, if that's possible. Eventually I got to that space. And so I remember one time, this is a great example, one of my girlfriends, I really needed to have a difficult conversation with her, and I was avoiding it like crazy. But I knew that speaking my truth was a part of something that I had not done in my past, that I needed to do in my authentic self. It was a bridge that had to be, built, because it was so important to so many pieces of myself. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to talk to her. And all of a sudden my phone rings and she's calling me. And I'm like, I was just thinking about her. I'm like, so I call, we're on a video chat. I answer it and she's like, hey. And I'm like, hi. We sit there awkwardly for a moment. I'm like, what's up? She goes, I don't know. You called me. And I said, I didn't call you. You called me. And she's like, I didn't call you. And I'm like, I'll call you back. And I sit there and I'm like, oh, darn. Okay. I get it, universe. And so I called her and I have this, really difficult, but beautiful conversation with her. And at the time I had where, how PayPal can show you if you're making money or whatever, all of a sudden just bing, 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 just this incredible, okay, I get it. I needed to speak my truth, but I want a reward for it. So those are my little like breadcrumbs. And that would happen, especially in the beginning. I had a lot of, the stripping away, the peeling of the layers to do. So it was almost on a daily basis where I would kind of get a ping that, I need to go and help someone, or I need to call someone, or I need to speak my truth or have a boundary or whatever it was. It was very much about me learning about myself, but I would follow each of those. And then over time, all of a sudden I look back and I'm like, everything that I've done, this was a program. This is this is an event. This is an experience that I can share with other people and teach them how to do. So breadcrumby in that sense.
And on the way of following these messages, these signs that you were asking for, there was ups and downs in vibration. I'm sure the fears, especially when you start peeling away some of those protective layers, the fears come up. How did you deal with the lower vibrations, and how did you help you bring yourself up to higher ones?
So two things, and I actually learned this when I was researching psychosomatic illnesses. I was working clinically, and I noticed that one of the biggest things that was happening when we could get to the root of the illness really, really quickly, and of course it's riddled in some type of weird trauma in the mind, and this was something that I was being studied for, was why are we getting there so fast? And I noticed, I was like, I could have never quantified this before, but there's an unconditional love to my method, where you see someone so whole and so complete, they don't even need to be fixed, and you love them and you care for them. And this type of compassion, that energy would pour out of me, and the patients would have incredible, incredible results. But I noticed I don't do that in my own growth. We don't do that in our own growth. We sit there and judge ourselves or shame ourselves for not being 100% better today or perfect as we were yesterday. And I realized giving ourselves grace and embedding the process. Whenever I would dip, I was like, if I want to lay in bed all day today, if that feels like love to me, if I need to take care of myself, that's okay. The rest is just my programming telling me, get up and go and do something, or you're not worth anything. And so it was like disintegrating all of the stuff that I was telling myself in my self-judgment, and bringing love into the matter, to where I'm like, the dip actually isn't a bad thing. The dip is feedback. The dip is showing me how it's going to literally, like a slingshot, bring me forward. But what I do with the dip is the only part that matters. And so instead of me judging it and getting more emotional about my dips, now I go, roll up the sleeves. We're getting excited. This means I'm about to grow, because there's something about myself that I haven't mastered yet, and it's presenting itself in perfect time.
Mastering your mind and taking charge of creating your reality. This is so huge. Once again, you got me to another place. And I always hope that I ask a question or two in these interviews that somebody's never had before. And I hope this is the one, because you share, when you're working with somebody, really, I think what you shared was looking in their eyes and seeing the creator in them.
Yeah.
And that is so powerful in helping people feel seen and helping people find their own power. Why can't we look in the mirror and look in our eyes and see the same thing?
I think that there's an egocentrism to human beings, where we think that every thought we have is somehow unique, that everyone isn't walking around feeling like, because I'm seeing it from these lenses, from these set of eyes, that I'm different. But when people stop seeing that they're different and that they are connected to a greater whole, that tends to just go right out the window. So I know for myself, when I believed that I was separate from existence, or separate from humanity, or separate from creation and being able to co-create with a higher power, it caused me so much pain. And I would sit there and say, I'm so broken. There's something so wrong with me and everyone else is perfect. But that was because I had a false sense of separation, that I'm actually a fractal of all that is.
Once again, when I was researching, the exact phrase was the mixture of magic and motion. What does that mean to you?
That's kind of where I throw in the spiritual woo-woo and the science. So I want magic. I want magical experiences. I want to feel like blessings drop on my head. Absolutely. But there is motion that's needed. There is work that has to be done to get into the vibration in which all the things we seek or currently exist, versus us trying to pull it down into our reality. And a part of that is putting energy into motion. And what does that mean? And that's the psychology of our thoughts and our beliefs, and how energy interacts, and how we are literally little human antennas walking around transmitting and receiving. And what does that mean? And what is that communication system? So it's like, bring in the miraculous, bring in the magic, bring in the godliness of creation. But also, we're human for a reason. We have these brains, these minds, these constructs for some beautiful reason too. Let's blend them instead of forgetting about one.
Yeah. In Imagine Miracles, we share that we're multidimensional, and we have to realize that we have to live multidimensionally to make that all happen. And so when we're talking energy, when we're talking being a manifestation expert, we have to talk about vibration and be in alignment with vibration. And I know you've got a new book coming out, or it may already be out. I'm sorry if it is.
It is now. It wasn't when we originally booked, I don't think.
So 8 Secrets to Powerful Manifesting. Could you share what you feel? I know they're really sequential, and the book is put together to help you on a path. But what one of those 8 secrets do you think is the most hardest for people to grasp?
Ooh, the hardest one that I see is rewriting the rules. Because to be able to be willing, as we've talked about, go into yourself and not be afraid of what you're going to find. And to be able to kind of throw up, I say, like, throw yourself up on the proverbial whiteboard and get curious. But to throw your mind up on a whiteboard and kind of not disassociate, but distance yourself from it, it's a really interesting process, because you do need to remember that self-care and self-love are super important in that process, because you might uncover some things that you're like, whoa, didn't even know that was sitting there, or, oh my gosh, I have that belief. Now what do I do with it? And so it's that, like, the push and pull of love yourself through it, lean into it, step back, take care of yourself. Okay, let's dive in further. Let's go a little bit deeper. And so it's a dance for a lot of people with their psychology.
And you spend a lot of time with many people helping them through these processes. Could you share an example or two of some of the experiences that people's had, some of the manifestations that they brought into their lives?
Oh gosh, so many healed relationships, incredible relationships with their parents, with their children, books. I have tons now of authors who have learned from me, TEDx speakers, 6-figure businesses, all of the humanistic things, absolutely. But the ones that I'm proud of, and this happens with each and every person that I teach, is that they go through a healing process as well. I remember speaking to this one gal who had a really negative relationship with her mother. And that was one of her biggest focuses, was, I just wish I could fix my mom. And through the program, absolutely, she created the physical, beautiful manifestations, money, a really cool job, and all that stuff. But to me, I'm like, I want the goods. I want them to have an emotional experience. I want them to heal if it needs to be healed, and so forth. And it took, it was less than 30 days where she was like, oh my gosh, I get it. And it took less than 3 months for her mom to be on board with it. And now I just talked to them, I think like 2 weeks ago. They're coming to one of our events. And now they grow together. They've healed all the junk that's in the way. And they actually live together now. And she's taking care of her mother because she's elderly. And it's this beautiful relationship. And so I think, although anyone can manifest anything once you get it right, because you're just mastering yourself. Manifestation is just self-mastery. But I think that the biggest manifestations that I'm proud of is all of the healed relationships, or the parents that get healed before they hurt their children accidentally, or whatever it is, making the world, a better place. But I feel kind of lucky that we've got so many of those folks, because that's my sneaky focus. I'm like, yeah, you'll get the Ferrari, don't worry, but let's heal your dad's relationship first.
Awareness is probably the quickest way and the most lasting way to raise your vibration. Do you have other techniques that you help people raise their vibration to even help them get to that level of awareness?
Yes, absolutely. So this is part of, in the book, and I won't get too heady with it, but I'll give a fun one. This is called Embodying Your Future Self. It's secret number 8 in the book. And it's this state you get into where, you can meditate, take a couple deep breaths, whatever someone does to get into like that nice centered space. And then you basically talk to a version of you that doesn't exist yet. Edison and Einstein would talk about how they'd pull information from something seemingly outside of them, the collective mind, as many of them would call it. And I believe that's our super conscious. We have information, as you said, we're multidimensional beings. There are versions of us in all moments doing all things. So why do we direct our consciousness onto this one, this reality, right? So it's exciting. But there's also times where we're like, I don't know how to heal this relationship, or I don't know how to get out of this money mess, or I don't know what it looks like in 10 years. And there's actually a version of us that we can tap into that allows for us to access that information. And I've called upon it so many times when I'm like, oh, this business thing. I mean, talk about the property that we purchased from you. I embodied my future self and I was like, what's next? And I saw chickens and I saw the land. And then we go there and I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. Here we are. Of course, we just have to open up the space for it. So if I had to say a really simplistic way to do it would be get yourself into a meditative state, let your imagination run wild, have one simple question and just say, what would my future self, the one that I want to tap into, the one that has whatever it is that I seek, what's their advice, or what's the one word or the one, image thing? Just be open to whatever comes through and then run with it.
I think that's excellent advice. And what I want to share with the imagination, so many people are afraid of meditation, but when you go in with a question and then you're just looking for the answers to come up, meditation isn't as difficult as people make it by trying to clear their mind of everything. So I think that's excellent advice that you shared there. Believe it or not, we're coming to the end of our time. Everything goes so fast when we're having these great conversations. Could you share a piece of parting guidance that you want everybody to take away from our time together?
Yes. And I know that it sounds a bit cliche, but go with the energy on it. Truly, truly so. Given my own walk of life and the people I've helped, I've seen this over and over and over again. Anyone can do and have anything they want. They just need to find the alignment. Truly so, when you match the vibration of that which you seek, you embody it and you become it, the world is your oyster. And everything is so beautiful there. And any fears that sit on the other side of, well, if I get it, could be gone, or will I lose someone in the process? All of that stuff, that humanistic stuff, doesn't go with you on those vibratory levels. They are incredible. They're magical, and everything works out that way. So I always say, people just do the work, get into alignment. The rest takes care of itself.
One of the things that we didn't get a chance to talk about is we are such amazing manifestors. We're doing it all the time. It's as you just shared there so eloquently, it's bringing ourselves into that vibration of the things that we want, and not allowing ourselves to be in the vibration of the things that we don't want, because that's what we're attracting into our lives. So thank you for sharing in that way. How can people get more information about the 8 secrets to powerful manifesting? And how can they learn more about you and authentic living?
The8secrets.com is a great way to buy the book. It's available everywhere and anywhere, and it's currently being converted into a couple different languages. So the8secrets.com is the perfect place for that. And then really, you just Google Mandy Morris. I seem to pop up just about everywhere now. So on Facebook or YouTube, it's just my name, and I'll still pop up on other social media handles with Mandy Morris as well.
And I'll make sure all that information is available on Mandy's show page. Just go to themiracleyou.com. All of those URLs, all that information will be available to you. Mandy Morris, thank you so much for sharing who you are. Thank you for the difference that you're making in the world. And thank you for living your purpose.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It was such a pleasure. On behalf of Mary, my wife and business partner, the entire team here at Imagine Miracles, we want to wish each and every one of you a miracle day.
You've completed this episode of The Miracle You, but we have plenty more to help you discover your own personal passion and purpose. Head over to themiracleyou.com for free resources to assist you on your journey, as well as register for our free webinar, Discover Your Miracle Life, 3 mind-awakening steps toward your unique purpose, or apply for a one-on-one Your Life, Your Way breakthrough session and discover your next best step on your journey. All available exclusively on our website. That's themiracleyou.com. We look forward to sharing more experiences of passion, purpose, and life by design next time, right here on The Miracle You.